So at that point I was ready to get in the van and leave and go off to Morocco and just give up on the wildlands. And I wrote a damning letter to the consulate.
But
yeah, there's a great bit here, but it would cost
200 euros.
Ooh. So I'm just checking. I've dug up all of the crowns. So off-grid, if you want to stay warm and you don't have an off-grid cabin or house with 4 walls and a front door, you've got to chop your wood and clean out your log burner. I'm very, very keen to try and get us to a point where we're somewhere getting closer to being more sustainable in our food, although it was a bit of a failure.
In other news, we've got a little list of things that we can get done at the moment by using materials that we already have on the land. We've got a stack of pallets, we've got some polycarb sheets, we were going to build a greenhouse, decided not to, and you're going to put that to good use in the garden, aren't you? Hello, welcome back to the Wildlands.
And in tonight's episode, we're going to give you some updates. We've got a visa update. It's a tedious, ongoing. Visa issues are fun, aren't they?
Yep.
So we'll be telling you all about that in a little bit. And also, we get a massive crop of Jerusalem artichokes.
And we just let you know what we've been up to, and we give you some updates and what we've got planned for next week too.
So enjoy tonight's episode. In July 2021, with the increase in travel restrictions caused by Brexit and the pandemic, we decided to buy off-grid land in Portugal to live a more sustainable lifestyle.
Follow along with our journey as we turn our beautiful but derelict land into our very own slice of off-grid heaven. Wildlands.
So, thought we'd give you an update on the visa first before we show you around some of the garden and some of the other things that we've been doing and have planned.
Because there has been a development.
There has indeed. And has it been a good development, Missy?
I don't know anymore. It was a crazy, weird, unexpected development that had us pulling our hair out for half a day, didn't it?
Did indeed. So without waffling too much, because we do that already on a Wednesday, so there were 3 things that we could do when our visa was declined. To summarise very quickly, the first thing was we could put a complaint in to the consulate in London. The second thing is we could appeal to the Minister of Foreign Affairs here in Portugal. And the third thing is we could enter into litigation or take the government to court, basically.
So we decided we were going to do all 3. As you know, we wrote out a complaint and we sent it to the correct place, to the consulate in London. And unbeknownst to us, they said to themselves, oh, that's their appeal. We'll send that to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And they didn't tell us, did they? No,
nor did they then put our complaint in. So I went back to check just to make sure it wasn't my mistake. And I looked at my emails and I'd replied and said we'd like to, because they confirmed that all 3 were not mutually exclusive, so you can basically do all 3. So I said we would put the complaint in first and then the appeal to the minister, and then if neither of those got you a visa, you could then go into litigation. So I said I'll do all 3. So here's the first one, and sent that off. And then we paid an immigration lawyer, which cost 250 euros, adding further to the excessive costs of the reapplication. She then looked at all the facts, came back and said there's absolutely no way that your visa should be declined. I will write a letter. So she wrote a 12-page formal letter, stamped, notarised, signed as a solicitor in legalese, and sent that into the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
And she also copied in the consulate in London so that they could stay aware of what stage we were at which point they then emailed us and said, hey, why have you sent this to the Minister of Foreign Affairs? We've already submitted your appeal for you. And we scratched our heads and thought, well, no, you haven't. And turned out they had.
So our complaint they'd submitted as an appeal, and our complaint they'd not heard. So.
And we hadn't written it, because we hadn't written it as an appeal, it wasn't properly worded, it wasn't in Portuguese, it didn't cite all the laws and regulations because we don't know them, that's why we got the lawyer. So that's great.
So at that point I was ready to get in the van and leave and go off to Morocco and just give up on the wildlands. I was really grumpy, wasn't I?
Yeah.
and I wrote a damning letter to the consulate, but I decided not to send it. You know, when it's nice to write a letter that is actually therapeutic to yourself without actually pressing the send button, and I'm glad I didn't, because about a week later the consulate mailed and said they'd contacted the Minister of Foreign Affairs and he would hear our appeal from our immigration lawyer, so that was good news.
But
Yeah, there's a great bit here, but it would cost
€200.
Ooh. So we'd already paid previously for the appeal, and we've obviously paid to reapply when our original appeal was not heard, which it was supposed to have been heard. It's a very expensive process, isn't it, trying to get a visa that you've already applied for. That's our update on the visa.
Yeah, that's the end of the update, I'm afraid. There's still no word, so the new appeal from the lawyer has gone to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. He now has 60 days to respond. That's that.
So in other news, obviously it's been raining a lot, the ground is very wet. That means some of our more tender plants are either ready to be harvested or they're ready to be lifted and or put into the cold frame to overwinter. So I went down to the garden and had a look at our Jerusalem artichokes.
They look dead. They were fabulous right at the end of the season. They managed to survive all summer, although they did fall over. But they had these fabulous yellow flowers. They looked really bright and beautiful. And then they turned black and withered, and I thought they were done. And I did not think there'd be much going on under there.
So if you followed our journey since we moved here, you'll remember about a year ago, one of our subscribers, Gary, we met him in a car park in Castelo Branco, and he gave us some plants, which are the very first plants that we were given on the wildlands. And one of those plants was these Jerusalem artichokes that you can see that have fallen over behind me. You might also remember in the summer they had glorious yellow flowers and they were about 6 foot tall. So I've started harvesting them, and my, what a crop. I can't remember specifically, but I think off Gary we've probably got 9 or 10 bulbs which look like these, and these are edible, but I'm going to harvest the rest, show you how many bulbs we've got and how many bulbs have increased over the course of the year. So thanks again, Gary, absolutely pucker. And we're going to eat some of them in the next few days and save some in sawdust to replant next year, as they are not hardy in the ground as our winters are so cold. So I'm just checking. I've dug up all of the crowns from the first row. Not too bothered if I leave some in the ground. So I think I've got all those. So that's another couple that I missed. So when you dig up a whole plant, see the plant's gone black. Look at all these bulbs on here. So I've got to split these in a minute. So I'm just going to add them onto the pile for now. And I've got another couple to pull up. So what a fabulous crop. So the ones like these, the sort of bigger tubers, we're going to cook. Never cooked them before, have no recipes, but I imagine they're a bit potatoey or maybe gingery. So if you've got Jerusalem artichokes and you have any recipes, do pop them in the comments, that'd be lovely. And the bigger ones that are all matted with lots of tiny bulbs like this, gonna get the wet soil off, dry them out, put them in sawdust, and then we'll plant them again next year. So yeah, really pleased with that.
We've told you the weather has been rainy. Not only has it been rainy, but it's been really cold, very, very cold, very damp. And as we are outside most of the time, we've gone from having the wood burner on in the evenings for a few hours to having it on in the mornings and the evenings. And then eventually some days we just had it on all day long. If not for us, then for the dogs who love to lie around the side of it and keep themselves warm, which means that you get a lot of use out of your expensive mitre saw, don't you?
It does,
it's
yeah.
Now used for firewood.
So off-grid, if you want to stay warm and you don't have an off-grid cabin or house with 4 walls and a front door, you've got to chop your wood and clean out your log burner. So we clean out the log burner probably about once a week, but we chop wood every day, and that's wood that's already been collected or already purchased. Probably only about 15 minutes chopping to get an evening's worth of wood. So I'm just cleaning out the burner right now. And in other gardening jobs, despite the rain, I'm very, very keen to try and get us to a point where we're somewhere getting closer to being more sustainable in our food. So Rosie and I went off and we bought a lot of plugs of white and purple onions, about 150, and then we planted them up top, hopefully giving us at least 6 months supply of onions. And we also got a lot of garlic bulbs, 800 grams worth, and we planted our garlic, which hopefully will give us a year's supply of garlic. So if we head through our lovely rustic arch that I built last year, we come into this area here, which is what we call the tropical garden, although it was a bit of a failure with a very, very harsh summer that is hot. So you make the presumption that would be better for tropical plants, but it's just not humid enough here. So we got a banana here that didn't really grow too well, but it did have a baby, which we can lift and split and overwinter. Then we've got 2 varieties of bird of paradise, the strelitzia on my left. Lots of other things. Some of the strawberries here where the shade was cast in the summer have done very well. And then the big bed at the back, you'll remember, is where we had all our tomatoes until we ran out of water with our issues on the well. So the area that had the tomatoes in, it's got a few strawberries left, 1 bird of paradise, and then there's lots of space. So I'm going to use that to put in some common winter vegetables, which I've slightly cheated on because of our visa woes and going back to England to reapply for our visa. We're actually late with our autumn seeds. So I've been off to Sementes, our local little one-stop off-grid shop, which is very, very reasonably priced, and I've bought enough plugs of onions to last us for 6 months. The same with garlic bulbs, and then I've also bought a few extra strawberries to fill in some gaps, and Rosie wanted a few carrots and a few other bits, so we're going to spread these around this area because this area is fine for growing until the summer comes next year. So that gives us a good 6 months window to get onions and garlic, and then we can lift them and dry them, and if we're lucky we'll have enough onion and garlics to last us 6 months, maybe even a year. So that's the plan, is simple things we must become able to grow ourselves so that we don't have to buy them in a supermarket or from a local shop. And when you're looking at onions that are 3 or 4 large onions for a good couple of euros or more, makes sense to grow your own onions and eat them for free essentially. So let's get planting. So I've got Rosie helping me, she's splitting garlics at the moment, ready to plant. So while Rosie's stripping the garlics, the first thing I've got to plant is I've got a couple of different varieties of lettuce, which you can see are just little plugs, but it gives us a good 2, 3, 4 weeks head start. So I'm going to get them in the ground along the front, I think. And we know from being here last year that lettuce is fine over winter. Just going to plant a row along here. And then they're all in the same place, making it easier for picking. So next, in front of the blueberries here, Rose is going to do garlic because they can't go in the same bed as the strawberries because they stunt the strawberries' growth. And on the blueberries, you'll see that this one here is green and this one is not. So we'll have to see if the ones without leaves, of which there's 2, come back. But we're doing a nice long row of garlics up here, so go Rosie! Now we're down in the bottom in one of our raised beds. We've got some carrots that are left over that are not very big, so I'm going to leave them in the ground, but we've got a load more plugs and we're going to fill in all the gaps along here with my trusty helper Rosie. I think we've got 24 to plant, so we might not get them all in this bed.
Start digging your carrot holes.
Are you going to make the holes and I stick them in?
Sure, sounds good. Ah, big worm! Look, I found a big earthworm.
Yeah, we don't often see big earthworms.
No, they are not common here.
It's a big earthworm! that's about 130 onions planted, so that'll keep us going for a while if they all take. And we've done all the carrots, all the strawberries are in. We've just got a load more garlic to do that we're going to do at the front here. Now move those strawberries, and we've got half the bed on that side, so should be able to get them in, which we're going to do another day because I'm all onioned out now. So I'm going to go get myself a cold beer.
In other news, we've got a little list of things that we can get done at the moment by using materials that we already have on the land. We've got a stack of pallets, we've got some polycarb sheets. We were going to build a greenhouse, decided not to, and you're going to put that to good use in the garden, aren't you?
I am indeed. So yeah, we had enough polycarb to build a massive greenhouse, and you can see the pallets on the floor here next to the cold frame. That was the size of the greenhouse. So what I'm going to do is at the end of that, close to the cold frame, I'm going to make a kind of bus shelter, greenhouse sized, but basically an area where we can stand up. I can move the potting shed inside, so that means when it's rainy or cold we can pot things on or plant seeds in the dry, but also I'll probably put a door on it so that some of our bigger plants, got a few bananas and so on, can stay in a little mini greenhouse.
Yep, and you have to try and do that all with materials that we've got left over and bits and pieces, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. I think I'll probably...
It's going to look rustic. Because this year has just been so wet, and it's not like last year we worked outside all the time. You built the whole shade house outside and so on, and this year we're realising that actually if it's going to rain all the time, and you want to do potting, it's not very practical to take all your stuff all the way up and do it in the shade house, bring it all the way down. So
no, in nice. Last week's video, the one where we summarised the whole year of the building of the shade house, this week last year, there's footage of me in shorts with not even a t-shirt on. It was that hot while I was cutting up wood.
Yep, definitely not like that
and
this
it's
year.
not like that. So not only is it chillier, but it's very wet, as you said, and it's been very wet, which is great because it's getting water back in the land after the drought of our hot summer.
Yeah, not complaining, just trying to think of ways that we can work around it. Also in our Wednesday waffles just gone, you mentioned you're going to build us a gate.
Absolutely, yep. So I mentioned that for security we wanted to have a gate on the front of the land, and we had been out and chosen a lovely wrought iron one which was over £500. Obviously, as you're aware, we're always waffling on about the fact that we're now skint. So I was looking at, can I still increase our security and make a gate myself? So I was a little bit concerned because obviously things like hinges and so on can be expensive, particularly for a big heavy gate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a gate using fence posts as the frame. So most of those I have in stock. I'm just missing 2 long ones which are not very expensive, so I'm going to go off and buy them, and then I'm going to put a gate on the front of the land at the very entrance. So the gate's going to go here, and you might remember the olive grove, which is very small on that side, does not belong to us. So this little section here down to the chickens is not ours. So we're going to fence down here, and then this is the entrance to our new park up. So our boundary, if I reverse back, starts at this rock and goes that way and along here. So the gate is going to go along like that at a slight angle, so that when it opens, vans can easily drive into this section here. So I'd now be inside the boundary of our land with the gate there, and I can drive my camper van into here. So all of this needs wood chipping now it's been cleared. Dave has cleared some of this end, but basically it's a lot of raking really, and then wood chip here, and then over here in this area here, somewhere around here, I need to make a picnic area. So at the very least it can start with wood chip, and then at this end This seems to be where the tent people like to stay when they're up here because it's very level and it's quite smooth. So I think I'll fence this in and maybe put some shade netting on it, make it a lot more private. So if you have a tent and you want to come and stay, you could stay here, or you could stay there, or you could stay further down the land. So our new park up is nearly ready.
And finally, we're going to pop a little roof over part of the chickens area. They have a secure pen they go in if we go out for the day or go shopping, what have you. And two-thirds of it is just open with chicken wire. And because of the rain, we think it'd be nice to make them a completely covered run just for the winter so that they have a bit more dry earth. They like dust bathing and so on, and they just can't get that at the moment. So lots to be getting on with.
Missed one job out on the same note as the chicken coop roof, using the polycarb that I'm going to use there that is left over again from the greenhouse that we mentioned earlier. I'm going to put 3 sheets on the side of the shade house, boxing a third wall in because the rain and the wind, I think it would give us just a little bit extra heat. So that's going to be another job in the next few days or weeks. It's an hour's job. Busy. So lots to do. So in other news, we really do have a big thank you now, don't we?
Yes.
So you'll notice quite often in our videos we have links to Buy Me a Coffee, where you can just go in and give us a little gift of a small coffee, hit the button. But Buy Me a Coffee introduced a wish list facility, didn't they, about a week and a half ago?
Yep, and we thought we'd have a little go and pop some stuff on it and see what it was all about and whether it was worth having a wish list. We were blown away. Just completely flabbergasted by the generosity of people. It's crazy. So yeah, we're overwhelmed, and we have thanks to give to specific people, and just thanks to everybody that chooses to donate and help us out with stuff like that. Support, yeah, it's great.
So I'd like to thank Jimmy McKay, who bought us an olive tree, which we're going to plant in the fruit forest once we've got our swales and berms in. So thanks very much, Jimmy, for that. Really appreciate that.
Natalie Smith bought us a fruit tree as well. So thank you very much for that, Natalie. We're obviously going to plant that same as the olive tree, but you've also then gone and bought us all treats, which are just so appreciated and just completely mind-boggling that you would do that. Dom got some Guinness.
Thanks so much.
Rosie got some resin, I got something as well. It's just really, really appreciated and cheered us right up.
It did. Yeah, and Rosie was over the moon, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, she did herself an advert, bless her, because she really wanted to get some craft stuff. And then
we haven't even had a chance to put the advert into a video for her.
So her craft stuff materialised, so thanks so much for that.
The craft stuff was from Suzanne, so yeah, big thanks.
Thank you for all my craft supplies. Didn't expect the things I put on Buy Me a Coffee to go out so fast, but this is the project that you were funded. Thank you.
If you'd like to buy us a coffee, then the link is in the description, or you can have a look at our wish list and see if there's anything on there. Some of them, you've put listed fruit trees, haven't you, that come with a YouTube mention, so you could do that if you fancy being shouted out by us.
Yeah, so the plan is, as you might know, once our swales and berms are in, there is a video about what a swale is, but in short, we're going to capture water that comes down the hill here, so we're going to dig the whole of the fruit forest up behind us, which is in a previous video, so if you haven't seen it, have a watch. But once that is done, then we'll be putting new trees, fruit trees, olive trees and some native trees, along with lots of other things, perennials and so on. So that's exciting for the future, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Look forward to doing the planting.
So another week at the Wildlands. Thanks very much for watching. As always in every video, if you haven't, make sure you're subscribed and give us a like. And look forward to your comments if you've got any questions, or remember I'd like a recipe or 2 or 3 for Jerusalem artichokes. Thanks very much for watching.
We'll see you again soon. Bye.